we do a Wayne's World thing on back through it? Good morning. It is 5:45 on the 9th of February 2017. If you weren't with us last night, it is the 66th anniversary of the last execution at the Dana prison in Shrewsbury. Shrewsbury, depending on how you say it. The execution of George Riley. We did a live video all last night. We started at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock last night. We were in the prison till 11, so we were here presenting loosely till about 11 o'clock, and then we headed out for some sleep. We left the feed running, which finished at 4 in the morning, I think, if the live feed finished. And then we just set this one back up just before 6 o'clock. And we're going to run this now through until about 8:30, maybe 9 o'clock, or see how many people are around. The point of this is not us ghost hunting. We're not ghost hunters. We're not particular hardcore believers. I wouldn't say we're non-believers. We're kind of skeptic. We like to be able to sort of see stuff. And loads of this information's on the first part of the last video, so go back and watch that if you haven't seen it. But yeah, we're going to go live. Oh, we are live. So what I'm going to do in a sec is I'm going to flip us back to the cameras, to the live feed, and you can have a look around the prison and see what sort of stuff there. And I'm going to just ping up to Emma to let her know that we're live. Just give me a second. So she'll post all the links up on Facebook. We are live. I'm going to pull it up myself on there we go. Pull it up myself. Perfect. On YouTube. So we've got the live chats up. So if you want to come on and shout holla. Hola. That's absolutely fine. If you want to ask us to go and look at areas, we can do. If you want to ask any history or heritage questions, and Chrissy's here to answer them. I'm going to switch back over to the other camera so you can watch the screens, and I'm going to drink my tea, and then we'll walk you through which cameras are which, and we'll see what's been going on. And whilst that happens, I'm just going to have a quick look at a very quick look at last night's feed in the background. My computer will let me do this. So I don't think I can. I need to look at it but not play it, because I want to just have a look at all the comments.
Can you read the comments out? Yeah?
I don't know. Oh, I'll be ashamed if you can't.
No, it's a shame, isn't it?
It's going to be really weird as well when people watch it, because I'll just be talking randomly. Randomly answering questions.
I think we did read the questions, haven't we?
I think we did, and if we didn't, then we will do now. Now that we know that. We're kind of learning this as we go, because we've not done live videos before. Last night was the first one we did. We've had to do it a little bit crudely, I'm afraid, just to get it working. But I think we quite enjoyed it last night, so we're probably going to do more of these, and some good views. So we're going to do some more of these, and we will get better at them, shall we say? So we'll do more of these as we go forward. So I'm just going to jump Facebook actually up online as well, so we can chat to the world. Oh, I can see my in-laws are playing Monopoly in New Zealand. Kyle and Nige, my brother-in-law, my father-in-law, keep going to jail. How appropriate. and my mother-in-law basically owns the whole board, so it sounds pretty much like normal life. Just wait for my sister-in-law to throw it across the room. So I'm just going to have a quick look and just check that all the feeds are up. Check that Emma's there posting. She probably should be, and I imagine she will. I think she's probably there. Yeah, she's posted. Yeah, she's there. Emma's here somewhere. Oh, and we've got another watcher, morning watcher. Say hello if you like. We're just going to drink some tea. Numbers are flying up now. Look at that. Oh, just awesome. They always say you've got to start somewhere, and that's something I really believe in, especially in business and such, but in every aspect of life, you've got to start somewhere. We're starting with 3 viewers. At some point in the future, hopefully we'll have 300, 3,000, 30,000, 300,000, and so on and so forth. Okay. So it's quite quiet on the cameras at the moment by looks of things. We've obviously just got back in the building. We're just really kind of having a look at everything now to see if everything's still in the same place for a start, see if everything's moved. It all appears to be where it was, which is good. And we're kind of getting to a point now. It's 10 to 6 in the morning. This is the kind of time in about 10 minutes that the prison would have started to see activity again. We'd have had the executioner, whose bedroom, funny enough, is actually is right next door to where we're stood at the moment. There's a room next to us. It's a small room. That would have been the bedroom that the executioner slept in. The room we stood in is what we call the executioner's day room, or his prep room. So this is where he'd have spent his time the day before the execution, prepping all of his equipment, doing his calculations. He'd had a radio and stuff in here, and being able to have tea and dinner and things in here and stuff like that. If he wasn't eating the governor. It's this room that we're stood in at the moment. This is where he would have come when he got up. He'd have woken up. He'd have come in here. He'd have washed and got ready, basically. And then from here, he'd have made his way through into the execution room, a route that we're going to follow shortly. And he'd have gone into the execution room and then just started the final preparations, really, getting the sandbags off the ropes, making sure that they were okay, making sure they weren't frayed, and everything was just ready for the execution, which would have been at 8 o'clock. The crowds would probably have started gathering outside around 6:30. There was a few. I think it's hard to know the exact report, but I think there was sort of a few hundred people outside. Some reports say it was as high as a couple of thousand, but I think it was a few hundred people outside protesting for George Riley to be reprieved from the death sentence. There was obviously reporters and stuff outside. There was reports of people on their knees praying and such like that. So it was quite an emotional time in the morning. And the prisoners still on A wing and C wing had been protesting all night, banging their cups against the doors. That had been going on all night, and it was still going on this morning. So there was quite a lot of activity happening at this, in sort of the next 10 minutes or so. It was still very busy. Whilst we do this, I might send Chrissy down onto C wing and send her down into cell 2, 3, and 4 and see what the temperature's looking like. Because yesterday, I think we did that around 10:30. Or turn this torch off actually. Okay, it's better. I can't see anything. So I sent Chrissy down to C wing so she can have a look at cell 2, 3, and 4 and see whether there's a change in temperature last night. About 10:30, I think we went to do it. So 2.5 hours into the live feed, we went on to C wing, and there was definitely a difference in temperature between cell 3 and the cells either side. So, go on, Chrissy.
We just have a gulp of tea.
Okay. Just for those of you that get the meme, get the joke, she's not got a bobble hat on.
Right, I'm in now. Okay, I've got a radio.
Okay. Okay.
Let's just see that Chrissy's just headed off onto Sealing. You just obviously saw on the cameras going through. So if you're in the morning and you're sat at home watching, you're in the warm, tucked up in your pajamas, you're dressing down with a nice cup of tea and a bacon sandwich, don't message us, you buggers, because we're still in the cold, freezing prison. It's not too bad actually. I've got to be honest. This morning it's not too chilly. We've got a cup of tea, but certainly no bacon sandwich. There's Chrissy coming back up Sealing. That's what that light is. Now, if I was being really cruel, I'd nip out into one of the cells. I'd jump out into one of the cells down here, and I'd hide in the cells and wait for it to come along and jump out. And you get to watch her. Absolutely. That's just Chrissy coming through on the radio. Yeah, copy that. That's just Chrissy coming through on the radio to say that it's definitely colder in cell 3 still. We should probably make our way back now. Okay, I'll just jump in between pages just so I can see what's going on Facebook.
Yeah, it is the same place again, definitely colder.
No, it's still cold.
I wondered if it was just, was I imagining it because...
You think you have the power of suggestion,
Yeah.
don't you? That it's it
But no,
must be colder because it was last night type of stuff. Just for anybody watching this that's been to the prison in the winter, or has read anything on the prison in the winter, it is obviously cold in the winter. It's 6 o'clock in the morning. We're stood pretty much in the edge of the jail on B wing, just between B wing and D wing. And I'm just in a jumper. Obviously, I've got trousers and a hat on, but just in the hoodie. But actually, it's quite warm this morning. I haven't got gloves on. Oh, something moving across the ceiling. I haven't got gloves on or anything. And yes, it's definitely getting warmer in the jail, which is good. So we're coming to the warmer months now in the prison, which will be nice and comfortable all the way through now until kind of October, November time. Emma, I assume Emma's still watching somewhere. I haven't seen anything pop up in the live chat yet, so I'll get Emma to kick off in a second with a nice good morning, everybody, in the chat. So yeah, Emma's there. She's got my 5-year-old daughter with her. So she's
Morning, Delaney.
Morning. So I have to watch the swearing now. Emma, now that I know you're online,
Can you put some tweets out, please?
Worked out how to do
Yeah, I
Just
put
last 6
I
hours.
put it on Facebook and it seems to magically appear on Twitter. The Twitter sphere. I'll stick some tweets out. We're probably going to do a few posts to the paranormal groups as well, and make sure they're awake. I haven't done yet. I haven't actually got a self-report for this, which is highly unusual for me. You're getting honest. Right. I feel like the dual presenting job. I bring comedy, you bring the history.
Oh, yes. Definitely.
Chris is a lot older than I am, hence the reason she brings the history.
I make you fine.
Two watching, that'll be you, well, us, and Emma.
I'm coughing out. I see.
Well, no, because it's still recording. Chrissy hasn't quite understood technology, despite the fact we're actually live and still live. She thinks because nobody's watching, she can do what she likes. It doesn't matter. It's not that we're going to watch it back or anything. The amount of news reporters that have made that mistake and gone severely wrong on air over the years.
Put your hands over your eyes and everyone can see you now.
Yeah, it's like playing hide and seek with a 3-year-old. Stay in the corner. I'll get some tissue. Okay, so guys, we're just going a little bit quiet because we're just all doing a bit of a mix of some social media posts and stuff. So don't worry, we're still here. We're just we're on our phones. I don't need the link for the thing, so I'm just tweeting some of the posts and some of the links. Let's just get the prison link up. I'm just going to ping this out to some of the guys. Hold it.
Signal's quite weak, isn't it, in the execution room?
It's it is on that far camera because it's obviously further away
Yeah.
from the unit. So it's
That was the
not
one
as strong.
last
It dropped
night.
off a couple of times.
Yeah, last night when I got home, it was.
It's not too bad. I mean, I think we can tweak that as we go. It dropped off a couple of times, obviously last night, but.
Do we have chairs?
That's a very good question. Well, we've got a chair, but the screen's on it. We don't have chairs. I always feel like I always think for presenters should present standing up. I always think usually people are lazy sitting down. It's one of the reasons I like Chris Moyles, because he runs around when he presents, like stands up, and like flaps about everywhere.
Morning, Ben.
Morning, Ben.
Have you been to sleep?
Yeah. We saw your post from last night, Ben, when we got in this morning. We flicked through them. It was really good, actually. It allowed us to pinpoint places to go and have a very quick look at rather than to go to watch through the few hours that we missed. We were able to just jump to different points based on what you were putting. So thank you very much for doing that. It was useful. So guys, we're still just pushing out some stuff on social media and things like that, just to make the world aware that we're here.
Yeah,
Just got cold in my hands, just-
I can feel it in my arms, yeah. Some cold air coming through.
It did, Ben. Yeah, it was definitely helpful, Ben, for you to do that. So thank you. And we might have to rope you in to do that again if we do this. I think next time, Chrissy and I, or whoever does it, it'll certainly be me. I think probably Chrissy and maybe Emma will join us as well. We probably stay up all night last time. We'd only planned on doing it till 10, but it just flies. Doesn't it?
It did, yeah.
So we've had it really quite capturing, didn't we? Just watching the cameras and kind of chatting to people and all that kind of stuff was really. It was really good. We really enjoyed it. So I think next time we'd do it all night. I mean, if we were going to sleep, then we'd go and get some sleep in one of the cells potentially and film it in kind of paranormal lockdown,
Yeah.
Groff kind of Katrina style. I think that'd be quite cool. Maybe we go and maybe what we do is we'd lock each other in for an hour or something like that. Chrissy can go first.
think there is a blast of cold. I think it's become cold.
Yeah, it's a bit, it's strange, isn't it? I mean, this is a room now, we're at what, 6:10, 6:15? So it's this kind of time now that this room would have been very much in use. I mean, we're now an hour and 50 minutes from the execution time. So the governor would now have be pretty much on site, or certainly turning up soon. The executioner would be up, he'd be getting ready, the executioner's assistant would be up and getting ready, they'd be in this room, those two definitely, possibly joined by the governor when he arrives. He'd probably do a few bits downstairs. You'd have had a few officers coming in, the shift changes at 7, so you'd normally get the officers coming around 6:30 to do the counts and stuff. So the prison would at this point be starting to wake up, basically, to come alive. Although I didn't really sleep last night, 66 years ago, because like I say, the prisoners were up all night protesting for George Riley to be set free. So it wouldn't have been. Oh, there's a train. It wouldn't have been that quiet anyway. But it's going to start getting busier in terms of that type of stuff. But it's definitely got a little bit colder.
Yeah.
I think if we get another set of, sorry guys, we're just going to have a quick chat about, I know no one's watching, obviously you'll be able to hear. Ben's just asked, was there a gap from when the prison shut to when you guys started doing what you're doing? Yes, Ben, there was. The prison closed on the 31st of March 2013. It sat empty. Excuse me. It sat empty for just over a year, I think. 2014. Sorry, for just over 2 years, basically. It was bought by a developer in the February, March of 2015. So it sat empty and closed for 2 years. And then we took over in July 2015. So it sat empty for just under 2.5 years, about 27 months basically, 28 months. When we took over, it wasn't in a particularly good condition. The doors had been left open, the windows had been left open. I think the security firm that the MOJ had in looking after it didn't really. They didn't maintain the building, so they were obviously paying the security guards just to make sure nobody broke in, which, it's a prison, it doesn't happen.
Easiest place to break into.
Exactly. So they were here for a couple of years at the taxpayers' expense.
A-wing.
And yeah, it was not in good condition when we took over, so we had to clean it up really. Sorry, I was just saying what we should do is we should get another set, because we're obviously talking about another set of cameras to A-wing, weren't we? So
Yeah.
what we should do is if we'd have to get a unit and put it in and test the distance, because A-wing's a big open space, we should have more luck with the wireless side of things. So if we put a unit, for example, we'd have to choose many officers, we might have to put it in like the middle office on the 2s. I don't know if it would work on the 1s.
Yeah.
And then possibly 8 cameras. I still think 16 cameras is a better shout on A-wing, because we have to cover the stairs and the bars anyway. Dipped out. It's just the odd dip with the thick walls, isn't it? It's the furthest camera away. It's obviously got a bit quiet here in terms of views and such, which we don't really mind too much because obviously it'll be viewed back. People watch it again, and it certainly looks as if there's a few people on Facebook chatting. Tell me what we did oversight, Chrissy. Not bringing your kettle up.
I know, I was just thinking, should I go make tea? Any copious amounts of tea.
Intravenous drip of tea. I'm going to go sit in the palliative care suite where they're just going to put a tea drip into my arm.
Yeah, I'm going to make tea.
Okay. So Chrissy's just headed off for a few minutes to make tea, thankfully, which is great. I'll see if she pops up on the cameras. I'm not sure which way she's gone, actually. And there she is in that middle camera. She's popping through the corridor. So my expectation, I guess, or my hope is that, definitely a hope, that some people will jump on. Is there a spiral staircase in B-Wing? I think there's a spiral staircase in here, where that goes. Yeah, Ben's just asked, in B-Wing, is there a spiral staircase? Any idea where that goes? There is a spiral staircase. It is in B-Wing. It's at the far end of B-Wing from where we're stood at the moment, the opposite end. It's the other side of healthcare, basically. It starts on the ones just outside reception, which used to be originally the old reception. You just used to come in there, and then there was a laundry, and now it's where they would store all the inmate clothing and blankets and bedding and stuff like that. If you go up onto the first floor, onto the ones, it goes into the far end of healthcare next to dentistry and the nurses' offices, and then it goes up one more floor onto the threes, which goes into basically admin offices, where the admin staff would have been and such. So it's quite a cool staircase. If you come and visit, it's open. You're more than welcome to go up and down it and have a look and such like that. There's another staircase as well, just behind the room that we're in at the moment. It's not a spiral staircase, but a metal staircase, which takes you up to the threes, like a little section of the threes, basically separated from everywhere else, which is where the video link room is, a couple of meeting rooms for solicitors and prisoners, and the archive store. Funny enough, also, if you ever go up there by the video link room, there's two toilets, and one of those toilets has got a small boarded up window in, and that window is the original window that prisoners would have looked through to view the last chapel service before their execution. So that's where George Riley would have gone, and anybody else that's executed at the prison in the last years of executions. They'd have gone up there to watch the chapel service before their execution, the day before their execution. So I was just saying that I was hoping, my hope is that around sort of 7 o'clock when people are up and kind of getting ready for the day, that we might get a few more viewers in, and we'll obviously be leading closer into the time that the execution takes place. We haven't really gone out of our way to kind of promote and publicise what we're doing. We didn't necessarily feel that was
what we wanted to do. We didn't go to TV stations, to radio stations, to lots of Facebook groups and stuff. We kind of wanted to do it more in our own way and do it as we've done it really, and kind of see how it works. So just lost the camera feed on the execution room, which hopefully will come back in a sec. There it is. Apologies that it dips out. It's just the camera is probably a little bit far. It's just right at the farthest reach we could get it really from the receiver. So let's dip out every now and again. Obviously pretty thick walls here as well at the prison, so a few of the cameras are wireless, a few of them are hardwired, but certainly obviously with such thick walls it vastly reduces the wireless capacity, the wireless capabilities and distances. A little quick look on Facebook, some more activity going on. I'm just gonna do a few more social media posts. Emma's around somewhere, I think, on online, picking up most bits. You still with us, Emma? Depends on tag, don't you? Just very quickly, as we've spoken about a few things, tagging a few local people, a few local businesses and such. Might get I've seen if Emma's still with us. Emma's still with us. I'll get Emma on the camera off. It's all white and A-wing, from one side to the other. Morning, Kelly. Yeah, there's been a couple of little lights actually on A-wing bouncing around. Yeah, there's been a few kind of moving. Last night on A-wing actually there was quite a bit of activity on A-wing. Here's Chrissy coming back in that middle corridor just here, so don't panic. That's definitely Chrissy with the T. Yeah, there was some good activity on A-wing last night, moving around. We could see
This is the A-wing camera here. We could see basically what looked like a person popping out the cell. You can just see the shelf, that little dark patch there is the shelf inside the cell. But we could just almost sort of see like it felt as if kind of somebody who was looking out. It was really weird. It was quite hard to make out, but there was a lot of activity on A-wing, and Chrissy and I actually went for a bit of a wander on A-wing last night. And as sod's law would have it, we went for a wander on A-wing, and then I was getting messages through from Emma to say there was loads of activity going on C-wing. But we didn't want to run over there, so we just kind of let it happen. And apparently there's some movements, there's some stuff moving past the camera on C-wing. Emma, if you're still there, feel free to share. You're still there, Emma, feel free to share the hangout and the feed onto the local pages. You know you're from Shrewsbury Web and those kind of pages. So we're just having a marketing conversation straight through the feed. I've lost my mouse.
I bring tea, are you citizen?
You've missed me losing my mouse.
You're back.
Yay. Panic moment. I'm actually very good with technology, I like to think. So we're still here, so feel free to ask any questions about anything you'd like in terms of, well, anything you like, try and keep it prison based, that'd be nice. I can't guarantee I can answer it. We obviously had our political Trump-esque conversation last night, so we'll go back into that. If you want to fire any questions when you jump on, please do. Then we'll do our best to answer them. See how that goes. If you're watching this back at some point in the future and you're wondering what everything's about, we're here on the anniversary, the 66th anniversary of the last execution at the Dana prison in Shrewsbury. I'm not going to go into too much of the history of it now, but there's loads of ways to sort of keep up with what we were doing or what we are doing. Facebook's a really good way. You could like us at Jailhouse Tours, which is the main business that kind of run the prison history and heritage side. You can like the actual prison at HMP Shrewsbury. You can like my page, which is the Unfinished Entrepreneur. So you can like that page, and lots of stuff gets shared there. We've got a few other pages as well, but those would be the three main ones for here, I think. So cheap plugs. I'm definitely going to put up a live feed during the next prison escape event. Like our favourites.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah,
That's a really good idea.
And then put one up maybe for Night at the Darn as well.
We should just do a live feed for everybody, really.
Well enough, when I was testing this yesterday, I was just trying to get everything ready for the live feed. I had Brenner, and Brenner is the one of our staff here at the prison that works down in the gate lodge. That is the person that welcomes you and answers the phone most of the time. And she's what we call delightfully weird. But yes, she was looking online and sending the link out to a few friends to check it.
Yeah.
And she said to me instead, I can't get this to work properly. She said, oh, you should do this all the time. So just frantically running around going, I can't get it to work.
It's all very quiet this morning, isn't it?
Right, everyone's still asleep. We're going to have to make a decision at some point as to whether we stay in this room all the way past 8 o'clock, or whether we go into other rooms and what we kind of do, really.
We could go for a wander around. And at 8 o'clock.
Come back. I think we have to, if we're
Well-
going to go for a wander, I think it has to be in the next hour and be back.
Yeah, I'll come back
half
before.
7
Yeah.
to be here for kind of the last half hour or so, because I think we want to leave those rooms uncontaminated, if you will, and
Yeah.
nobody in them.
I was just reading the back. I don't know how I read it.
There was mention of a morgue, yes. Sorry, Ben, I've just seen your comment. There was mention of a morgue in the chat last night. Is that a thing? It is a thing. There is a morgue here, or was a morgue here. It's long been converted into an office, but there's still the room. It's right next to the drop room. It's directly below the execution room, basically the condemned man's cell in that block. It's quite a small space. Funny enough, we had, as I said last night, we've had a lot of people come back for tours and such who have worked here over the years, and we had a guy come back. I think he must have been in his late 70s, who was, funny enough, he was the grave digger. He used to dig the graves in the prison for the unmarked graves for the executed men. I mean, he was actually a works person at the prison, but that's one of the jobs he had. And he was telling us a story about the morgue, because you can see where the door from the morgue is bricked up on the outside. And he was telling us some stories about that, saying there used to be a slab in there, and sort of describing how it was. And he told us that it was the coldest room in the prison, and it was like a fridge. And he said the slab was always freezing. He used to come in the morning and put his sandwiches on the slab to keep them cold. Obviously not during, under his executions and such, or at least I hope not. But he used to put his sandwiches on the slab, which is where they would stay until lunchtime, basically, Paul's place. And again, we're talking back now in the 50s and 60s and such, so it's a number of years ago. I think health and safety was very different then.
Yeah. They didn't care back then.
Well, Chrissy with the sweeping statement.
I'm 85.
Yeah, Chrissy with the sweeping statement. They just didn't care.
We should go for a walk round before someone comes up.
Just finish my tea and then we go for the whole one. I think we should go for a quick wander into the execution room. Condemned man's cell.
Yeah.
Maybe go for a wander through C wing, out to A wing, and then back. Just do a loop. Okay. Okay, we're going to go for a quick wander. So you're going to see us popping up on a few different cameras as always. When we come into the rooms, we'll give the cameras a little wave so you know it's us. We're back about 15 minutes or so, I guess. Got a torch.
Yep.
Still here. Middle bottom of 644, a light orb. Then just after down on the left, no doubt. It seems every time we leave a
Every time we
room.
leave a room, it's something happens, yeah.
So we've just been for a wander. It's 5 to 7. We're basically an hour away from, just over an hour away from when the execution would have taken place. We'll go for another little wander in a sec. We've not done anything particularly, you know.
We stand in the execution room for a while. Joel was asking if anyone was present.
President correct, sir?
We weren't sure if we could see if the route was moving or it was just our eyes.
We just like I say, we're not paranormal groups, but we spend a lot of time with them. I'm certainly here quite a lot, and paranormal groups are here, so we pick up on different things that they do. And one of the things they do a lot is obviously they talk out to anybody that may or may not be there. So when we were in the execution room, was just sort of saying if there's anybody here or any spirits here or anybody that wants to communicate at all, if you could let us know, move the rope. Yeah, that's all right. I can do that. So, yeah. If you can move the rope just a little bit or a lot, you know, just to give us a sign type of stuff. And Chris and I both sort of stopped and looked at each other. Did that just move? And it's one of those things that we were staring at it so hard. You couldn't see us in the hangar. We just sort of stood there, like kind of bent over a little bit, looking at it. And we're staring really intently at the rope, trying to decipher if it's moving a little bit or not. And you get that power of suggestion. And that's kind of, oh, do you see that there?
Definitely, yeah.
And I think that's really the position we come from in this, is we're trying to really kind of overanalyze things.
Did you see that on Sailing then?
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of how we try and come at this, rather than going, oh my God, the rope's moving. We very much look at it from, is that happening? There's a lot of stuff bouncing around in there at the moment. We then went for a quick wander into the condemned man's cell. And to give you a good example, I walked in condemned man's cell, biggest light I've seen. Morning, Sarah.
Morning, Sarah.
We walked into the condemned man's cell and we were just chatting, and we heard this noise, and it was kind of like almost like radiator pipes were needed bleeding, for example. It was that kind of noise, and we were like, what was that?
It's definitely in the room.
Yeah,
it's in the room.
We weren't quite sure, and we were quiet for a second, and then we heard it again, and we're like, whoa, there's definitely something there. We're kind of like, what's going on? And we heard it again, and as we heard it, Chrissy moved, and it was like, what was that? And she took a step back, and we heard it again, and then we realised it was a loose floorboard. Pesky floorboards. When I get you damn floorboards. And we found it was a floorboard, but that's the kind of stuff that we like to check, because, you know, it could be other people would have gone in and heard, oh my God, there's definitely something here. But like the paranormal groups, you know, we like to investigate these things a little bit more in depth and kind of try and get out all other possibilities and, you know, scientific explanations and real explanations and stuff before we go too far. Although it felt initially like there could be something there, there's definitely noise, it just turned out to be sort of loads of lights last night there. Yeah, there was, Sarah. I got home last night and Emma had the feed on, so I was watching the feed for a little bit. We could still see some stuff happening, but there is an argument to be said about, you know, whether stuff happens in the building when people aren't here, whether it needs that kind of that human emotional kind of input and experience kind of to help things along kind of as they happen.
I think so.
It's very much a paranormal question.
Yeah, because it was all very still until we just took a walk around.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a lot.
Look at that.
There seems to be a lot more activity since we did that.
Maybe we're just likable.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
I like to think so. So yeah, we're now 7 o'clock on the dot. We're an hour away from the execution. The execution would have taken place on the stroke of 8 on the Abbey clock. It would have started. The whole process was very, very quick. It would have taken less than 30 seconds to have the condemned man out of his cell, into the noose, and dropping through the floor into the room below. So it was a very, very quick process. It wasn't prolonged by any sense. Ben's just asked, what are the black boxes above the cell doors? So he's referring to these here. Those are the electrical boxes. Inside each of those, there is 3 trip switches, a main trip switch for the electric. And then there's 2 sub trips. One is for the light and one is for the electric. And it's for each cell, obviously for safety reasons. And such like that. If you come on one of our nighttime events, Night in the Dana, or you stay overnight, we will tell you some stories about how those were used when prisoners were here and how what they were used for, basically.
Sarah, what's the worst thing that's happened to you?
Hiring
Generally in life or in prison? Gee, thanks.
Sorry, I just couldn't resist. It's the worst thing that's happened to you. I like that in general life.
You've got some. Well, I think you told some stories last night, didn't you?
Yeah, but they're not bad things that happen. I guess I don't know whether she means worst thing in terms of like the thing that we hated the most about the prison, or the worst thing, like the most experience. Sarah, can you give us a bit more definition on kind of what you're asking, whether it's like what we've experienced, like the scariest thing, or whether you mean like the hardest thing here?
The cold.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. We've had the odd staff issue every now and again. That's been pretty bad.
That's mainly me, though.
Yeah, the kettle broke once. That was a bad day. That was a bad day. I would say, I must admit, one thing I would say is that when we took over this place, we spent a fair bit of time with both with Shropshire Fire and Rescue and with the police, just making sure that everything was up to standard from a health and safety perspective, and from a fire perspective, and from a police perspective, and especially with the licensing events that we do and such, and the alcoholic events and the overnight stays. And I would say that both of those groups have been really good. The fire and the police have been fantastic in supporting us and helping us get the building to a nice, safe state, so we can bring public in. So that's a positive thing.
What's the scariest
paranormal thing to happen to you? I've had 2 proper encounters. One was, like I said, I explained both of them last night, but one was on A wing up on the floors when I swept out the cells when we first took over the prison before we opened to the public, and I was basically sweeping the cells. And as I was sweeping the cells, it felt as if somebody was watching me from behind. I thought one of the officers had snuck into the cell behind me and was about to jump out. I sort of tentatively turned around. There was nobody there. That kind of shut me up a little bit. And I carried on sweeping, and again, it felt as if somebody was behind me. And it was just one cell. There's one cell out of, I think we've got 186 cells. And there's only one that I kind of just feel a bit weird about. I'll go in it, but I just feel a bit weird about it.
I'm still waiting to have a scary.
Yeah, and then I spent more time in the building than usual, in fairness. I saw what I would describe, I think, is I don't know if it's a ghost as such, but it's kind of like a presence, if you will, like a spirit. In August, the Sunday, August bank holiday last year, we were preparing, I was with Sophie and Lauren, and we were preparing the 3s on A-Wing for the History Day, which was doing on bank holiday Monday. It was Sunday afternoon, probably about 6:30 in early evening. And I was on the 3s, and I came out of a cell. And as I came out of the cell and I looked down the landing, I could see at the end of the landing by the officers just what I can only describe as kind of like a white, misty kind of fog, which, funny enough, is the sort of thing people were explaining they saw on Sealand last night. Just move across, clearly move about 6 or 7 foot, and it just moved across the back part of the landing and went straight into the cell. The cell door was open, it just went straight into the cell. I was so convinced that was a ghost or it was some type of paranormal that I kind of shouted out, and both the girls came running out of the cells that they were in on the 3s. I was like, I've just seen this. I was actually quite excited by it because I know in the building where you shine torches, where you get lights kind of coming through in different spaces and how it reflects off different windows and such like that. I spent a lot of time here, so I know what those do, and that definitely wasn't that. It was definitely something else. So I think those are the two experiences I've had. But there's lots of stuff reported here, isn't there? There's loads of things that have been reported previously when it was a prison, and now obviously with visitors, especially overnight visitors, we do get a lot of reports of things happening. Let's have a quick look on the Facebook feeds, see what's going on there. You can see the Southern Ghost Society of say good morning. So I saw that they were chatting last night on Facebook. So good morning to you guys. They came and visited us last year, I think it was, and they're coming back. They come back at some point in 2017. Southern Ghost Society coming back. They're a really good group. All the groups we get are great, in fairness, but I was here with those guys, had a good night with them. So they want to check out, want to watch for. I can see Pitch Black Investigations. I don't think that's one I've done. I think we're going to Keith Graham must have done, but good morning, guys. No Loud Bible yet, but they're still in our bad list, aren't they? They're still on our naughty list for not turning up to an event last year. Naughty Loud Bible. So we're getting to that time now. This would have been a really busy time, I think, for 66 years ago as the prison was getting ready. The thing moving across the condemned man cells a lot. There would have been by this point the executioner, his assistant would be firmly up, and then everything would be in the final stages of checks. The governor would have been up. He'd have made sure that everything was kind of ready and everything was going. We'd have had the priest, if they'd requested, would be in the condemned man cell with the condemned man doing final prayers and such. The family of the condemned man would have seen him the day before. They wouldn't come in the morning. The officers would have been switching out shifts now. So the officers would have switched out shifts with two fresh officers in the cell. Who would have been then present during the execution. The High Sheriff of the county would have arrived, and he'd be on site now with the governor, and again making sure that was there. The doctor would have been on site by this point, everything would have kind of been very much in full swing, ready for the execution. It had been probably quite a tense time for everybody. It's you want to obviously make sure you get it right, in the crudest sense. You want to make sure that the condemned man is going to have as far as possible, a quick and painless death. So you want to make sure that everything's sort of set up correctly. For a little bit of history for you, it's actually the executioner, or the person that was supposed to do the execution is actually the sheriff of the county who was always present at the executions. He was the person that should carry out the execution. He outsourced it. He subcontracted it to an executioner. So I was just reading some comments. So the High Sheriff was actually the person that should have carried out the execution, but he outsourced it to the executioner. Albert Pierpoint, who was one of the most famous executioners in the country, most well known. He did a number of executions here. Not the last one, but he did a few here. So he slept in the prison and did those. And then what would have happened is just before 8 o'clock, the execution of the whole process would have begun, and we'll go through that in a little while. It's kind of gruesome. So I'm just reading a comment here from Ben. It's kind of gruesome, but I read that the noose was placed under the left cheekbone, so that when the body dropped, it would snap the vertebrae. The body would then be left to hang for 1 hour. The bell would be sounded when the life was deceased. That's pretty accurate, Ben. Yeah, I'm going to go through that in probably in about half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour. I'll talk people through the actual process of how it happened. But yeah, that's pretty close. If you come on any of our day tours, then we do take you into the execution room. We do talk about how executions took place and the process and the timings and stuff, some of the information I'll talk about today. If you come on one of our nighttime tours, so at Dana in the Dark, then we go through it. Again, we probably go through it in a little bit more detail, I would say, because it's a 16 plus event, so we can tell the stories in a slightly different way and probably talk about them a bit more. Trying to find the right word. We can talk about them in a slightly different way because we don't have children present. When we do them on a Dana and a night in the Dana, so the overnight stay event, then we can really kind of talk about some of the execution. Yeah, some of the executions that kind of went wrong really in the past. We're talking sort of back in the 18th century. We can talk about how some of these were really badly wrong, and yes, some of the more gruesome instances and stuff like that. We can talk about those because that's an 18 plus event. So we're always very careful about our audience and about what we're sort of saying and such, which I will today because it's going on YouTube. The YouTube. Sorry, Kristen. The YouTube.
Just going to finish with channel at the end.
The YouTube channel. And if any of our staff are watching, Brenna, if you're watching and such like that, when you come in, if you could bring us some breakfast, that'd be great.
Yes.
At least I'll change that image for this year. I'm just having a very quick look, guys, again at the. Did
you get anything through? John's just asked on Facebook, did you get anything through the night? I got some sleep between 12 and 5. So what we did, John, last night, I don't know if you're watching or not, but what we did last night was we stayed here. Chris and I were here until 11 o'clock. We then headed out and got some sleep for about 5 hours, and then got back here at just gone 5 in the morning to get set up to continue life here at 6. I think next time, if we did something like this again, which I think we're quite keen to do something like this again, we would
Stay through
we would stay through the night.
Yeah.
We'd go through.
I continued to watch them when I got home, and you did the same, didn't you? And
For about half
Yeah.
an hour or so, before I had to get some sleep. Chrissy and I run the building here basically. So obviously Emma as well, but she was at home last night doing the social media stuff for us online. Still awake in fairness. But yeah, we've all got to work today. We were working all day yesterday. We've got to work today. So doing an overnight, doing a 24-hour shift is quite tough. But yeah, next time we'll definitely do it. We'll do it all over the night. And maybe we'll run a little competition till the time after that. We could bring somebody in to do it.
Yeah, to come and join us.
So come join us for the evening. Apart from the lab Bible, they're not.
They have to get down on their hands and knees and beg us.
They're throwing me on my shit list. I don't care how many followers they've got on Facebook. They're on my list. No Christmas card for you. Okay, so sorry. So back to the I guess the seriousness of the event that we're here for. We don't really want to sort of lighten it in terms of making it jokey, particularly. So the way that executions would have worked is the condemned man would have been in his cell, which if you haven't seen, is this one down here. He'd have been in there with 2 prison officers. He'd have been in there basically pretty much since the date he was told by the court of the date of his execution. Now, in Great Britain, in England, it works very differently to the US. You get given a date of execution. So let's say that would normally be about 30 days. So you'd go to court, they'd give you a date of execution, which would be within the next 30 days. You then can make an appeal, and you have to make that appeal within 28 days. If the appeal is heard and turned down, then the execution will be rescheduled within another 30 days. And that's it. You can't make a second appeal. There isn't the same as you have in the US, where you can sit on death row for years and years and years and years and years. You've literally got one appeal opportunity, and that's it. So if you got sentenced on the 1st of January, let's say, you'd be sentenced to death by the 31st of January. You could make your appeal within 28 days, so you could make your appeal on the 28th of January. If that was turned down and it wasn't successful, then your execution would be rescheduled within the next 30 days. So basically by the 1st of March, pretty much. So if you were sentenced to die on the 1st of, if you were sentenced to, if you were given your execution date on the 1st of January, the very latest date that you'd be executed would be the 1st of March. So only a couple of months. So it happened very, very quickly in that sense. From the date that you were given the execution date, you'd have been moved into the condemned man's cell. You'd have then been in there with 2 officers, 24 hours a day pretty much as an exercise, leading into your execution. The reason for that is because you have been sentenced to death you've been sentenced to die by hanging, and that's what will happen. You will not take your own life. And therefore we're going to keep you alive until that date of execution, until you're executed. That is brings into the old saying, justice must be seen to be served, or justice must be seen to be done, which is why the condemned man would have been in that cell with 2 officers the whole time. The 2 officers there are there basically to keep him alive, to make sure he doesn't commit suicide or hurts himself or anything like that. On the morning of the execution, you would have a few different people in the execution room. As we've been speaking about so far, you'd have the executioner, you'd have the executioner's assistant, the governor of the prison or the deputy governor. Normally the governor would have been present. The high sheriff of the county would have been there because it was his job to do the execution. He just outsourced it. There would have been 2 prison officers in the room, who were the 2 prison officers in the condemned man's cell. They were there to restrain the prisoner and to support the execution, the executioner's role. Then there would have been a priest or a clergy, if the prisoner had wanted one there. And that would have been it. There would have been a doctor, but normally the doctor was underneath in the room below. And they would have, at the stroke of 8 o'clock, they would have taken the condemned man out. They'd have gone to get the condemned man from the cell. You can see here, there's a door, with my hand inside so Chrissy's in the way. Hello, Chrissy. There's a door just here. That door would have fed through basically to near enough where this window is. There's a small space in between, but near enough where the window is. And this door wouldn't have looked like that. There'd been basically a bookcase in the way, covering the door so that the condemned man wouldn't have known. That would have been a secret door. And the way that this was done is the condemned man would be sat down, basically facing away from the door, and the executioner would come through. The bookcase would get moved. The executioner would come through to collect the condemned man. And the idea behind it was that the condemned man is then walking the shortest distance possible to his death, and therefore, hopefully, it's not going to be as what's the word I'm looking for? Is traumatic. It's not going to be quite as traumatic as if it was if you got up and kind of had to walk out your cell door and then take a long stretch down the corridor towards the execution room and saw kind of everybody waiting for you. Because it would obviously be very difficult. You were going to your death.
There's also, there was no last words or any, you see, in the movies sometimes where you've got anything, final things that they want to say before, and there was none of that. It was pretty much instant from walking out of his cell to his death.
Yeah, that's right. You come out of a cell, he'd be taken to the noose. There wouldn't have been any words said. This would all be happening in seconds. He would get to the noose, the hood would be placed over his head. As the hood was being placed over his head, his feet and hands would be bound behind his back. The noose would be placed over the neck. The executioner would do his final checks. There would be an officer either side of the prisoner, basically to hold him and to make sure he fell straight. The executioner would do his final checks. He'd take a step back, and when he was happy, he'd pull the pin, pull the safety pin from the mechanism. He'd pull the lever, and that's where the condemned man would basically drop through the floor into the room below. Normally somewhere around an 8'6" kind of drop. And that's kind of how the process was done. Albert Pierpoint did it. He could get this done in seconds. I think the fastest he ever did an execution from collecting a condemned man through to dropping through the floor was about 9 seconds, which is hugely quick, really, really fast. I think normally they would happen in about the region of about 30 odd seconds. We go into this in real detail on our tour, so if you've not been on a tour, please do come on one of the tours, and the officers will take you through this in quite finite detail and can answer lots of questions about it as we go. Ben had asked earlier about people who'd been executed hanging for an hour and about how they placed the noose. That's all correct. The noose would be placed in such a way under the chin, with the aim that it would snap the vertebrae. It was designed to do that. They didn't want a strangulation. They wanted to break the vertebrae, ideally between the second and third, or third and fourth vertebrae, for a quick execution. At the end of the execution, the condemned man would have been on the end of the rope for an hour, had to stay on for a mandatory hour, at which point he would be taken down, and the doctor would check and make sure that the execution was successful before the condemned man was moved into the morgue. And again, we talk more about these, and you can go and see these areas. You can see, obviously, go into the hang room on the tours when you come and visit us. You can go downstairs into what's referred to as sort of the drop room beneath, which is where the condemned man would have dropped through, and you can go obviously into the morgue, which is next door to that, and kind of see where they would have been laid out before they're taken outside. And then buried in the grounds. All prisoners or condemned men were buried inside the grounds, because condemned prisoners who were executed were not allowed to be buried in consecrated grounds. So they were always buried inside the prison walls. We're 7:25, so 35 minutes before the execution would have taken place. There would have been 66 years ago to this day. There would have been a crowd of hundreds of people outside the Dana prison. all protesting pretty much for George Wright to be reprieved, to be spared the death sentence. I don't know if there were many people, I'm not sure if there were that many people calling for him to be released. I know the prisoners inside who had been up all night banging their cups against the doors, they were calling for his actual release. But I know that there was a number of people obviously petitioning for him to be reprieved from the death sentence, and there were calls being made to the Home Office and such all the way up until the execution. And the Home Office must have made a decision minutes before 8 o'clock to confirm to the governor and to the High Sheriff, yes, go ahead with this execution. Again, we're in the 60s, we're in 1961, so we're talking about a time where the vast population of the country still wanted public executions, was still in favour of public executions, but there would have been a large percentage that felt that the death penalty was not appropriate and should be taken off the books and shouldn't happen. I guess probably not a dissimilar percentage to kind of the in and out vote for Brexit, I would imagine. There's not a huge amount of activity happening at the moment. Chrissy and I were just sort of saying about 10 minutes ago that we find that when we go into places, we go in, sort of walk out, they tend to pick up a bit more activity. I don't know if that's because, there's people have gone through and therefore the emotion kind of builds a little bit, or if it just is, I'm not sure, but the sun's starting to come up as well. We can just see through the windows, it's starting to get a bit brighter. We're stood in. You can see actually, on all of these images here, you can see that it's got brighter, and these lights, which is the other cameras, it's getting a bit brighter inside. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to go just have a very quick wander into the condemned man's cell, and then we're going to have a quick wander into the execution room before we come back here, and just kind of see just go in and have a look, and we'll see how bright it's getting, and whether we're going to stay on infrared or whether it's going to switch back to normal day colour. So we'll do that quickly, and I'll be back in a few minutes for the last 30 minutes or so.
Okay, so we come back in. There's just been a horrible breathing and speaking noise at 7:31.
Really?
Well, we were. Okay, Ben, when you heard the noise, were we in one of the other rooms? Could you see us in the condemned man cell or in the execution room? Because we weren't in here. But... So. We just went through very quickly through the different spaces, which you could probably see. We're just talking in the condemned man cell about. Excuse me. We're just talking in the condemned man cell. Chrissy had just said about how it must have felt for the condemned man knowing that he was about to be executed, and also how it would have felt for the for the prison officers and the priest and everybody else involved in the process. How difficult a process it would have been. For everyone, really. It would be obviously very emotional and then quite difficult, I should imagine, for everyone involved. Oh, there's the in-laws in New Zealand saying hello. I wonder who won Monopoly. Sorry, just changing gears slightly. It would have been a very difficult process for everybody involved, and I think obviously the families of both the victims and the deceased. And I'm not specifically talking about George Riley here. I'm just talking about general executions. It would have been, it wouldn't have been easy, and I'm not convinced that closure is gained, as they would say, from executions. Rights and wrongs of it and such, the moralities of it, we won't go into now. It's a debate for a different time, but again, it's something that happens quite a lot on our tours, isn't it? We have a lot of people debating the rights and wrongs and whether it should or shouldn't happen. And they're always fascinating conversations to have and to hear different people's opinions. And if you're, by all means, make them on Facebook to us at Jailhouse Tours, drop us a comment or a message, and we're always happy to have those conversations. We went into the execution room. It's very bright now.
We were in the hanging
We were in
room.
the hanging room camera where there's a weird noises. We were in the execution room. There's nobody else here. The prison's still empty. The staff are not due in until 9:30. So it's just Chrissy and I. And I can promise you, there's nothing in place here. There's nothing that we've set up. We haven't got anything. It's just Chrissy and me sat in a room with a computer, filming the TV screen and 2 empty cups of tea.
Yes.
The noises were horrible. Are you sure it wasn't when we were in the room? No, we were, well, you could see on the cameras, we were in obviously a different space. You don't need to send us a recording of the sound, Ben. It'll
We can watch it back.
We can watch it back. So after we finished, we'll have a look back at that time. I think you said 7:31, so we'll have a look at that afterwards, and we'll listen to the sound. And listen to see what that is.
So it's 7:36 now. So it'd be really nice. I'm going to make us some tea.
Yeah, tea would be lovely. It's strange as well. It's a little bit weird doing this because it almost feels as if we're doing this kind of all night type of stuff, waiting for 8 o'clock for this kind of big thing to happen, and suddenly loads of paranormal activity to happen, which I don't think for one instance is what's going to happen. That's just Chrissy going. I think it's more a case of we started this at the beginning, the night before, and we wanted to see it through to the end. We will obviously keep an eye on the execution room, the condemned man cell. That's where all the activity would be now been happening. We're at a time where prisoners would now be getting unlocked, ready for count. I'm not actually 100% sure whether the prisoners were in their cells or out of their cells on the morning of an execution. They know that's Chrissy in that middle camera. they normally would have been unlocked by this point and been having breakfast and such like that. I don't know if on the day of an execution, if they would have been kept in cells for obvious reasons, or whether they would have been let out. I think something interesting I'll look into. So we've got people in another country. It's evening for them, so watching this just before they go to bed. But yeah, it's daylight now inside the rooms. It's really strange as well. When Chrissy and I came back in, and we were wandering around at sort of about 6:30. It was really dark still, like pitch black. We still needed torches to be able to see, and it's really eerie in the dark. It's amazing how much eerier it gets in the dark and how much scarier it feels in the dark. Once we just went back into the rooms now, so you saw, and the lights were up. We didn't need a torch. We could see quite clearly. And we were saying to each other how it's so strange. We were sort of saying, if in the dark, if something had happened, if like the rope had started moving, for example, in the dark, we'd have both been absolutely petrified. I think we'd have been running out of that room screaming. But you're standing there in the daylight, go, if the rope started moving now, just the rope's moving. So it's weird how just how the light just changes your perspective on things. But you can see quite clearly now that the sun's coming up. It's coming through the windows. Again, this is how bright it would have been in the execution room on the morning of the execution 66 years ago. Ben's got some great questions, really picking up on some of the detail in the pictures. He's just asked, in ceiling, what is the sloped area on the left? And he's referring to this bit just here, that just there. That is there's a door on the other side of that. And that is the staircase going down into the Georgian prison underneath. So there's a staircase that goes down into the Georgian prison. There's all the heating units are down there, and all the heating and air conditioning units, and the water feeds are down there as well. And a lot of the fuse boxes for the existing jail, but it accesses the old Georgian cells, the tunnel system basically underneath the prison. It's one of the many accesses. If you're coming to visit us, don't get too excited. It is padlocked, so you can't get in there. But yeah, it's one of, I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7 accesses. I think there's 6 accesses down into the Georgian cells beneath, and that's one of the 6. My 5 and 3-year-old actually, when they're here at the jail, they climb up it and they use it as a slide. And say good morning quickly to all those people that just joined us. We're obviously not a big, we're not a huge watch. We're not got thousands of people watching us. There's only a handful of you, and we're very grateful that you've jumped online to have a look and say hello. If you want to ask any questions at all, say anything to us, then please do. Just post it up on the comments on the live chat on YouTube. We'll do our best to answer it. If you haven't got the comments, then by all means post it up onto my page, which is The Unfinished Entrepreneur, or Jailhouse Tours, or HMP, and Emma, who's watching, will pick it up, and she'll be able to feed the questions to us if we don't see them. If you want to, feel free to subscribe to the page on YouTube and such, because we'll do more videos as we go. I probably do quite a lot of videos on here I do quite a lot of videos on here based around business, to be honest. I talk quite a lot about my business, experiences and stuff and things along those lines. But we also do quite a lot of prison stuff as well. So going to see who's a few different things pinging through Facebook and Twitter. So I'm just having a quick look through those. So the question come through saying, was the anti-suicide metal, you've put fending, but I assume you mean fencing in A-wing. Was it initially in the prison or was it retrofitted after? So I assume you mean the netting that goes across between the landings. There's netting between each of the landings. As you say, it's anti-suicide netting. That's part of the reason it is anti-suicide. It's also obviously for, if fights or anything broke out, so they couldn't get thrown over, people couldn't get thrown over the landings and potentially drop 4 stories. But also, so people couldn't, oh, cool, yeah, so that's what you're talking about. Also, so people couldn't throw stuff. If you can imagine, a prisoner, for example, throwing something from the 4s at somebody else, an officer or a prisoner down on the 1s, if it was a big, heavy object, it would do some serious damage, potentially kill somebody. So that's why the fencing was there. It was there originally, but it was a solid fencing. If you come to the prison and have a look, you can see the original eyelets on the landings where the original fencing would have been attached to. It was just been sheets of metal grating, effectively. Whereas what's there now is galvanized steel, and it's on springs, so it's got some give to it. So if you walk along it, which you're not allowed to, but if you walk on it, it has got some give. So if you did fall on it, it's a bit more like a trampoline as opposed to a solid bed frame, effectively, on the old school bed frames you might have got. And again, on the nighttime tours that we do, the overnight stays, the night in the Danas, we get people to come up the stairs and they can have stand along the landings and look at the netting, and we'll get onto the netting. So one of our staff who's covered for health and safety and insurance, we'll get onto the netting and we'll show you how the spring system works and such. So we do go through that. Normally we put Keith on because he's the smallest. So we're 7:46. So we're getting quite close now to obviously the 8 o'clock mark. Let's wait for Chrissy to come back and we'll talk a little bit more about that. It's Chrissy with a tea. No bacon sandwiches, but tea.
I missed anything.
You just missed me talking about stuff. So it's not really. Oh, see, that's a change on C-wing. on the top camera up here, you can see what's happened is it's bright enough now that camera's just turned back to colour. So it's a nice clear picture. Obviously, you'll be able to see the difference. It does it automatically when there's enough light. There's a big atrium in C Wing where the lights come through the ceiling, and it's it's bright enough now for that to be there. Well, I think we'll put these on the history day as well, you know.
Yeah,
It's quite nice.
that's a good idea.
Quite a lot of live feed.
It's very dark in the corridor outside C Wing still.
There will be. There's no.
As I found out when I went down that road.
There's no natural light. There's no windows. There's a number of areas in the building where they're just always pitch black unless you put the lights on, because they're in the middle of the buildings. So they're constantly dark. A Wing, funny enough, on the ones is generally pretty dark because it's got a floor above. On the twos, the landing's filled in. Whereas C Wing, you can see, is a lot brighter. Yeah. Our watching numbers have gone up a little bit, so we're sort of 19 odd people, and which we're happy to see. So again, those people just joining, if you want to ask any questions, and do by all means drop us a message, and we'll do our best to answer it. I'm just having a nice close look at the cameras at the moment, just to see if there's anything kind of going on in any of the spaces. It's all gone a little quiet. There's an interesting debate about paranormal. Why we always do paranormal investigations and we look for ghosts and all those kind of things at night time. Is it more likely that something's going to come out at night, or less likely? Or is it just because the experiences I explained earlier, I think when Chris went down to get the tea, that it feels scarier and eerier at night time, doesn't feel scary during the day? So is that why we do it like that? I personally, I'm not convinced that you're more likely to see something at night other than during the day, especially in a building where at night time people would have been asleep.
Yeah, there's a bit more activity on TV in the daytime. Instead of moving across sailing there. Okay, we're at 10 to 8, so we're 10 minutes away from the time that executions would have taken place. I'm trying myself at the moment, and I think it's a good thing to potentially try and do yourselves at home, wherever you're watching, to just think about the position that all of these different people would have been in at the moment. We're not talking about the moralities, particularly in the rights and wrongs of executions and the death penalty, and we're not talking about this particular case of George Riley, which is obviously the anniversary we're looking at, which is just because it's the last one to happen here in 61. I'm looking more at something Chrissy brought up a second ago in the condemned man cell, about how these people must have been feeling. Just the condemned man is, he's 8.5 minutes away from taking those final steps to his death. That must have been really, really difficult. It's been going on in his head.
Really, really kind of tough time. I think some people will have come to terms with it. Ruth Ellis was a good example. History says that she kind of accepted her fate, and she got up off her chair and she walked into she walked out of the cell and she walked into the execution room. She did it very, very calmly, and she went about it in a very calm manner. There's other cases in history where prisoners have been fighting for an hour, and officers have to fight them into the noose effectively. So it must have been a horrific time. Build up as well, the whole build up for it for the last 30 days and so on before you take those final walks. But also very difficult for the officers who have a job to do. They've got to escort you there. They're going to have to make sure that it happens as humanely as possible and try and keep you as calm as possible. It would have been difficult for the clergy, for whichever religion it may have been, to again go through that and then be with you through the last prayers and such like that. for the governor, who obviously has a job to carry out, the High Sheriff who has to be here. You can just see the lights have come on now. There's enough light for the camera to switch in the condemned man's cell, so that's giving us good light now. And equally the executioner. It would have been very difficult for the executioner, and there's cases in history where executioners have left their jobs. There's been some horrific cases where executions have gone really badly wrong. And executions, I can't remember off the top of my head, but there's a board in our execution room with the facts and history on of an executioner that there was just an execution went really badly wrong. And the executioner ended up committing suicide a few years later because he was basically haunted and had nightmares because of the scenes that he'd witnessed and he'd been through, and he just couldn't handle it any longer, and he ended up committing suicide because of that. So I think when we debate the death penalty and the rights and the wrongs of it, and whether there should be death penalty for different people, it's also worthwhile taking into consideration the effect it's going to have on everybody else involved in the process. And there's more humane ways, I think, of doing the death penalty rather than hanging people. It's just my opinion. We're coming up now to sort of 5 minutes before. I think we'll probably leave the feed running till about 8:15 anyway. We'll take it beyond 8 o'clock. Obviously I know there'll be people out there watching this looking specifically for paranormal activity and things like that. That it might happen, it might not. I think we're kind of doing this more as a point of historic.
Remembrance.
I wouldn't say remembrance. I don't think remembrance is quite right, but I think it's a point in history for both this building, for Shrewsbury, for Shropshire, the last execution in the county, one of the last in the country, synonymous and infamous for the type of case it was. And who knows, this building could have builders in it next year being developed, and very different. So this could be the last opportunity ever for this sort of thing to happen in this building. So that's kind of what we're doing. Historic importance, I think, is where we are. I think as long as the developers put some heating in this place, it'll be, I'll be able to.
Some heating now would be quite nice.
Somebody's just asked if we could leave the feed running for an hour after, so up till 9 o'clock. It's a little bit tricky. I'd leave it running for an hour, mainly because we're using my computer to do the feed off, and I need to start work at 8:30. I've got meetings, but we'll leave it running for a little bit, certainly. It's nice for you to say that, Ben. Thank you. If you're not following the chat, if you're on your phone and you can't see the chat, Ben's just come on to say I'd be disappointed if the building went. It's the only place like it, and you guys have done so much good for the prison, for the community. So thank you for that comment, Ben. It is one thing we try and do. We use pretty much purely local suppliers where we can. We've got a couple of national companies that we have to use because of the type of business that we operate, because we are part of a larger organisation. but predominantly we do as much local business as we possibly can. All the companies involved, marketing, we source all our marketing locally, all of our leaflets and stuff. We get our keys cut locally, our padlocks made locally, all that kind of stuff is done locally. We support local charities and things like that. And in return, a lot of businesses support us, which is great. So. Checking the final Facebook feeds basically before we get to the...
Yeah, it's just a couple of minutes to go.
A few different comments on Facebook, so we'll just have a quick look at those. Okay, so we're just basically approaching now the final few seconds. Really, it's at this point now that we're at 7:59 in 25 seconds. So the execution is going to basically be very. It's going to be prepared now. The officers are going to be at a point where they're going to get ready to stand up in the condemned man's cell. 66 years ago. Today, that door would now be getting ready to open in the condemned man's cell in about 15 seconds. It was done very, very swiftly, very quick, and always to time. So that door would be open now. The executioner would be into the condemned man's cell. He'd be collecting the condemned man, and he'd be walking through with the officers into the execution room. They'd now be basically at the point of noose. So they'd be stood by the noose. The feet and hands would be bound as we're talking. The hood would be placed over the head. The noose would be placed over the head just after. The executioner would do his final checks. He'd make sure that the eyelet ring is underneath the right section of the chin. He'd do his final checks. He'd step back. The officers would still have hold. He'd pull the safety pin out. There'd be a quick nod between the officers and the executioner to signal they were ready and happy. The lever would be pulled, and the condemned man would have dropped straight through the trapdoor, and that's how quick it would have happened. So we just gave basically about a minute's worth of silence for, I think it's Chrissy sort of put in kind of remembrance for not just the person that was executed, not just for the condemned man, but also for all the people who were involved in the execution. It would have also been equally as traumatic that would have had to have gone through the process. But but yeah, the way that I just spoke, the way that I just walked through it, which I think took about 15 seconds to kind of talk the process through, that's literally as quick as it would have happened. So very fast, very efficient, for searching for a better word, and try to make it as humane and comfortable as possible for the prisoner. They certainly didn't want to prolong it and make it agonising in any way. And certainly from the turn of the century, the executioners not very good at getting the drop heights right and getting a quick death. So, like I say, that condemned man now would have dropped through the floor 66 years ago and before, and would now be at the end of the rope for the next hour before being taken down and pronounced. It's been quite interesting to see it from last night when you say, Chrissy, from sort of seeing different bits of activity happening
yeah.
all the way through to this morning.
It's having not sort of watched the cameras before, I wonder if that much activity happens every night or more.
Yeah, that's a good shout. I mean, the cameras are always on in the prison. We have them on throughout the day, and then there's a mobile feed actually that we have to our phones. So it might be something I look at a little bit more. It's not unheard of on a Friday, Saturday night when we have paranormal groups in for me to be at home or out somewhere, normally a pub, and then to flip my phone on and have a quick look and sort of see what the paranormal groups are doing, because obviously they use Seawing an awful lot for seances and for investigation. They use the execution room a lot, the condemned man's cell and A-Wing. So they're quite lively areas, those 5 cameras. So yeah, it's not unheard of to be able to see that. Unfortunately, I'm not able to share those images as such, or I'm not able to share live feeds with people, because obviously it's the group's footage in that sense. We just have to be recording it, so I wouldn't share it without their permission. Although we may speak to them about wanting to do some more live feeds and see how they feel about that. Okay, we're gonna dip out now, so we're gonna leave this running for another 15 minutes or so. It's about sort of 10 past, 20 past. Wardy's back.
Morning.
Morning, Wardy. Not missed a huge amount. There's 2 hours worth of footage you can go back and watch at your leisure. Just been talking this morning about various things. Various things from executions, obviously, through to the paranormal and a few other bits and pieces of the jail and stuff like that. So I think we saw most of the activity last night. Actually, I think the most activity we picked up was between, obviously, when we were here, 8 to 11. I think it was a good chunk of activity. And I always say that in the prison, there is a good amount of activity at kind of 7:30, 8 o'clock at night for a good hour and 2 hours. Because that's when prisoners would have been put back in their cells. And they'd been shouting at each other through cells and chatting to each other and all that kind of stuff. But it's still been quite loud. And they wouldn't have ended up going to sleep till sort of going towards midnight. So I think there's quite a lot of emotion, quite a lot of things happened back then. And that always seems to be quite a kind of a high point of paranormal activity.
Thank you, Ben. You've been around all night.
Yeah, you've been out longer than we have, I think. Obviously, all the videos are on YouTube, so if you've got yourself 10 and a half hours to spare at some point, feel free to go through it.
We will be open today as well from 10 o'clock if you want to come and do a self-guided tour or a guided tour at 3 o'clock.
Plug. Yeah, this is one of the things Christina said. It's one of the reasons we did stay up all night last night, because we've got to open the doors in just under 2 hours. So we've got to go and open the prison in a second, get lights on in a few areas, do the various health and safety checks we have to do every day, and yeah, get set up and get the doors open for 10. And we do that every single day. It's a labour of love, really, isn't it? As opposed to anything else. We had one of the students yesterday that came along. We had a group of students yesterday come on a tour. They're a good bunch of students, in fairness, but they're students that have, I think, been excluded from school, and they're on that path of potentially going down the wrong line and ending up in prison themselves. So they're really important groups for us to take around and really show and get them to understand and appreciate what prison life's actually like. And they were having a health and safety talk yesterday from Brenner, and one of the kids, quite a cocky kid, in fairness, young lad, saw me in the corner and went, "Oh, is that our tour guide?" I think he spoke like that. Is that our tour guide? And Brenner went, "No, that's the boss. That's the big boss." And the guy just went, "Whoa, how rich is he?" At which point my response was, "Yeah, I'm very rich. I've got 2 lovely children. I've got a business that just about survives. And on occasion I get to drink cocktails." I asked him how rich he was, and I quickly responded with, "Clearly not that rich, you're only Tommy Hilfiger." He didn't quite get what I was saying. But yeah, so we do like having those school groups in. We can have a lot of fun with them. Oh no, I wonder what time it is. It's going to be light enough for the cameras to flip in that execution rate.
It's quite light now, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, but I mean, I still think it'd be dark in here, it'd be infrared in here still. Where the condemned man's cell is, that's the windows of that building. That's the direction that the sun comes up, and that's where it first kind of comes over the wall, so that's why that's come on first. The execution room's next to it, but it's kind of a bit further around the corner. I think next time we have to rope a third person into this that we can add as part of the mix. So we'll have to see if we can get Emma in, I guess.
Yeah.
Sophie would be hilarious.
Sophie would be hilarious.
One of our staff who organises the history day. She's a student at Telford College, studying events and tourism, and she supports us with some of our events and has organised the history day, which is going to be a great day. You'll be able to hear a lot more about that coming soon. And she organised the history day, but she's petrified of things like this. If we brought her to one of these nights, we'd be constantly sort of sending her off to different places by herself and just watching her panic and scream. It'd be like watching Yvette Fielding all over again. You get a little bubble hat. A bubble hat. The memes would start. So yeah. I can't decide whether it should be good to do it with or not. It should be good for about 10 minutes, then we get really bored and fed up of her kind of like panicking about everything. Emma would bring a voice of reason.
Thanks to you, Ben. Hope you have a good day. Come and visit us in prison today.
Wardy, we are, yeah, we are mean. I would agree with that. But our defence is we run a prison. We're allowed to be mean. It's just yeah, pretty much. Okay, so I think we're pretty much at the end really of our live feed overnight. It's been an enjoyable experience from our perspective. We've really enjoyed it. That is true. We've enjoyed it. It's certainly something I think we're gonna seriously consider about doing again, and maybe doing it in a slightly different way and involve more people and stuff like that. In the coming weeks, so the execution room is just about to change, I think.
There we go.
So yeah, something we're going to do in the coming weeks. I think we'll look at doing some more of these. So please do send us messages, emails, anything along those lines, through any of the social media channels and such like that, about things you'd like us to do or things you'd like to see, and we'll try and accommodate that as best we can. Hopefully you've enjoyed it and we've not bored you too much. At the very least, hopefully you've had some history information, heard a few things maybe you didn't know. Feel free to share the video with your friends and such like that, and on Facebook, social media. The more publicity we can get for this place, the better. Like I say, we do this very much as pretty much a labour of love. We're a commercial company. We're not funded by Historic England or the National Lottery or Prince's Trust or anything like that. So keeping this place operating and running is done purely off our own backs. It's quite a big building. It's got a huge operational cost every month, just to keep it open and keep it operating. So do share that we're here and all the great stuff that we do, and hopefully we'll see you for some of the other events. And that's kind of, I think, about it from us, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Say goodbye then.
You say goodbye.
You said it first.
Yeah, thanks for staying with us all night, guys, and we'll
we were asleep.
Yeah. Thanks for keeping an eye on the prison for us.
I think next time we may well definitely do a sleep in, and we'll do it like a permanent lockdown style. We should bring Sophie and make her sleep in one of the cells, so that we could watch it all night. That'd be hilarious.
We'll watch hers, not sleep.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you guys. I hope you've enjoyed it, and like I said, we will do more of these. I'm sure in different ways, and we'll probably film a few more of our events and stuff like that. So we will see you soon. Thank you very much. We're going to finish our live feed there, and like I say, come and see us at some point. Now, how do we turn this off?
There we go. Bye.
Bye.